I'm Chris Turner, and this is the Empowered Parent Podcast. Greetings, listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Empowered Parent Podcast. Joining me once again are Ryan and Kayla North. Hi, guys.
Hey, Chris.
Hello, Christopher.
So we're coming up on one of our favorite events of the year. Tapestry Conference is going to be held in October on Friday the 19th and Saturday the 20th.
Yes, it is. It's coming up fast.
So, Kayla, who do we have coming to speak at conference that our listeners are going to be excited to come and listen to?
Oh, we're so excited. We have Jayne and her husband, David Schooler, and we're so excited that they're going to be with us this year. Jayne is the author of several books that you'll want to check out if you have not already. Wounded Children Healing Homes is the one that we first found of hers, but she's got several others that she's authored or co-authored. And she's just full of wisdom. I love sitting with her and just talking to her.
Yeah.
We've had some conversations just as she's kind of talked through the things she's going to speak on. And every time I just walk away and I just have I've learned something new from her. So I just think our listeners are going to love to hear from her.
Yeah.
She's also like the nicest person in the world.
She is.
She and David both, because we got to have dinner with them during the CAFO Summit.
Oh, yeah.
And David and I were sitting next to each other. And yeah, they're just the nicest people.
They are just nice, genuine people who have some good experiences. I mean, they were foster parents. They've adopted. They have traveled all over the world teaching just people how to help kids that have come from trauma backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think they are just amazing, and I want to be like them when I grow up.
Well, the other thing about Wounded Children Healing Homes is that it was featured on This Is Us.
Oh, yeah, that was so cool. When we saw it on there, we were watching, and all of a sudden, it was Randall.
Was reading it in bed,
Yeah, he was laying in bed reading this book, and we're like, that's Jayne's book. It was like so cool.
I get this very excited text message. Have you watched this week's This Is Us yet? I'm like, no.
Yes,
You got to. Jayne's book is in it.
We know her.
Yeah, it was just kind of fun to see like a book that we've read on a show
about adoption, foster care.
Yeah, and a book that we know is good, right? I mean, there's a ton of books they could have chosen. Mm-hmm. So it's so fun to see that they chose her book, right? And I know they've got some people that are doing their research. You can tell just by the shows. But I was just really excited just for Jayne that her book was there, that was featured on there. So Ryan likes to say Jayne Schooler, as seen on This Is Us.
That is what I say every class about it. Or what I actually say is, my friend, Jayne Schooler.
That's right. That's right.
This Is Us.
Yeah. So very cool.
Do you remember that 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon thing that went around about a decade ago?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if that is true, then basically we've been on This Is Us. Because
really, I mean,
there's the show, there's her book, there's Jayne. This is 4 degrees. We're just like 4 degrees from This Is Us. Not even 6.
That's right. It's very good.
I was wondering if you were to work Kevin Bacon into that 6 degrees of separation there. I was trying to figure it out. Like, okay, which one of those actors has been in something with Kevin Bacon?
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, no, I can do this.
I'm sure Milo.
No.
I'm sure it runs through Milo. I think.
No, there's This Is Us, Wounded Children Healing Homes, Jayne Schooler, me. I like bacon, Kevin Bacon.
That's not the way that works, right?
Didn't work well.
But nice try.
That was close, though.
I always call it 4 degrees of separation from This Is Us.
Of course, we have like a whole group of our listeners who are like, who's Kevin Bacon?
That's true.
No idea what we're talking about. I'm so sorry.
Yes, should I float that once upon a time we considered doing a post-game analysis of every episode of This Is Us?
That would be really fun.
But then I texted Chris and wondered if he'd seen that episode. He said not yet, and then I just knew we couldn't do it.
Yeah, he didn't stay up on the episodes like we were.
All your fault, Christopher.
Sorry to let you down there.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and we get no money from NBC, so
yeah,
we must actually like the show.
Fun. Yeah.
But of course, if NBC wants to throw some money our way, we are considering sponsors. So
right, we would definitely take it. I mean, not going to turn that down.
What are you going to do when there's an episode in the upcoming season where Randall says to Beth, Hey, I was listening to the Empowered Parent podcast.
That would be awesome. That would be so cool. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably pass out.
Now, I know what you would do, and it would involve urinating on yourself.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh, maybe thinking about me.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
But we digress.
So
Yes,
back
we
to
digress.
conference.
Yeah, back to conference.
What a great idea.
Who else are we having there?
Way to take charge, Chris.
Thanks.
Oh, my goodness. We have so many good speakers.
We have Kayla North.
Oh, yes, I will be there. I will speak at
And
some
Ryan
point.
North, I
Yeah.
noticed too.
There we go. And some guy named Chris Turner.
There, yes, all of us.
And if you
We'll
want
all
to
be
see
there.
a full lineup of the speakers, you can go to the conference website, tapestryconference.org, and there's a nice little link right up there at the top, speakers.
Yep,
Does say speakers.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, so this year we kind of got some old favorites back, plus we got some new folks. Those who have been in previous years and have gone through Kristen Mathis's, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
Kristen Mathis's sensory experience and have her teaching sensory that always goes over well, and we get a bunch of great feedback from that. And Paul and Diane Anderson as well. And then Cindy Lee, I think this is the third one that Cindy's coming to.
Yeah, something like that. She's
At
been
least.
here several years. Yeah.
It's also
for sure.
it's also David and Jayne's second time.
Yes, they were here, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I don't remember how long ago it was, but we have a story about the first time we met Jayne Schooler,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
which I told her in Seattle last year. I sat next to her at dinner up at Refresh, and we kind of laughed about the story. So we were attending Tapestry Conference 7 or 8 years ago, and as we walk into the building, Michael Monroe hurriedly comes over to us and says, will you guys do me a favor? And we're like, what do you want? And he said, I need people to help Jayne Schooler on stage this morning. I'm like, what? He's like, just let me take you to her. So we go down there and we meet her, and we stood back to back, and every time she mentioned some phrase, there was some sort of relationship injury phrase. We had to take steps apart to visually represent how words and actions put distance between people.
Okay.
So that was our first.
Yeah, I think one of us was the kid and one was the parent, and we would say things or something like that. Yeah.
Well, we had to read them or something.
We had a list. It wasn't hard. It was emotional. I remember crying, and I was like, I was not planning on standing on stage crying in front of all these people.
Yeah. So it's like I used to tell people, I've shared a stage with Jayne Schooler.
You were Jayne Schooler's prop, is what you were.
That hurts a little, Christopher.
We were kind of like props that day.
I was a speaking prop. I was a prop with a mic.
That's what some directors call the actors, speaking props.
Oh my goodness gracious!
I wonder if Dallas ever refers to us as speaking props. He nodded.
I'm sure he does.
As this is an audio medium, everybody should know that Dallas nodded.
Yes. Oh my goodness gracious!
You know what we should do? I know we need to get back to the conference, but what we should do is just Facebook Live and just have it just on Dallas.
And his facial expressions as we talk.
My favorite is when he just looks at you and does the speed it up finger motion.
You're running out of time.
We never ever get to pull it the stretch. I've yet to see the stretch move.
No, we never get that.
Let's get it, move it along, folks.
Yes. I
As
wonder why.
we're getting now.
I wonder why that is. Maybe because we're a little chatty. I don't know.
We are chatting,
Or
maybe we're just having a flight response.
Oh, perhaps. So, speaking of flight responses, 2018 has been kind of a wild year for us.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, could you kind of share with the listeners? Because, one thing they might have noticed is that we changed the name of the podcast.
Yes, we did.
So, why did we do that?
Okay, so I will try to give the 90-second version of the story. And if anybody wants the longer version of the story,
They can find you at conference.
they can find me at conference. They can find me at conference, or they can just email me at ryan@onebighappyhome.com, and I'd be glad to share. So I, up until this year, served as both the executive director of Tapestry and Empower to Connect. And in January of this year, my position went away and funding for the ministry was cut. So we were had to process that, plus being in limbo a little bit. And so, like I said, I promised to do the 90-second version of the story. So we met with a group of people, Chris being one of them, and some other folks who have some close friends and people who kind of stood alongside us and held us up, or held our arms up, so to speak, when we were really struggling at the beginning of the year. And we made some decisions there, and one of them was to start a nonprofit to continue the work of Tapestry, and the other one was to turn our blog into a company. So One Big Happy Home then is now One Big Happy Home, LLC. And so under the One Big Happy Home umbrella, that's where the podcast lives now. That is where we do all of our training and speaking and traveling under our curriculum creation and all that kind of stuff. And on a future episode of the podcast, we can talk some more about the plans of that. We were expanding the team pretty rapidly here in the second half of 2018. But also in the midst of all of that, we were driving back from a meeting in Austin, and Kayla said, well, since we're planning on starting a nonprofit, what do you think about us approaching Irving Bible Church and asking them to assign Tapestry to us? And so we formulated a plan for that, and spent some time refining that, and had a meeting with the church's leadership, and Kayla presented that plan to them. In the meantime, I had also gone and taken a job with a large child placing agency here in North Texas, CK Family Services, and work in the treatment foster care program there. And so IBC agreed, and we incorporated Tapestry as its own independent nonprofit. Kayla is the executive director of the ministry now. I serve as the board president, which means that I get to call board meetings to order and do Kayla's bidding. So that's basically what that means.
He's very good at it.
Yeah. So I'm
years of practice.
That's right.
I'm like her tech flunky. No disrespect to tech people. That's the role I play here. So she's doing a great job in preserving kind of the core of what Tapestry is all about, and that's ministering to families and supporting churches as they minister to families. So, the way we've kind of divided the division of responsibilities there is that the vast majority of what happens here in Dallas-Fort Worth and in North Texas is done under the Tapestry umbrella, and it's local ministry that's serving churches and families. And I think that one time we should probably have a podcast episode where we just talk a little bit more in depth about what that looks like.
Right.
But anyhow, suffice it to say, the reason we're pushing Tapestry Conference is because it is the largest event of our nonprofit, which Kayla leads now. And so I have the job at the agency, plus the heavy lifting on growing One Big Happy Home has fallen to me, as the heavy lifting on maintaining and growing Tapestry has fallen to Kayla. So that's contextually kind of where our lives are, and that's why the Empowered Parent podcast is the property of One Big Happy Home, but that's also why we promote Tapestry, because Kayla serves, we serve dual roles on here, right? Chris's wife, Kelly, is the secretary of our board. So we're pretty intertwined on a bunch of levels here between the two organizations, Tapestry being the nonprofit ministry and One Big Happy Home being the for-profit organization. So that is kind of it. I don't know if you want more than that, Chris, or Kayla, if you want to add anything, but that's sort of my 2-minute explanation, although I'm sure that took 5.
I'm surprised you did it in that short. I mean, it's definitely was a rough year for us, and it was hard. Change is hard. Transition's hard, but God has been good, and He has shown us just that He has different plans for us. He has bigger plans for us. He has something more in store. So I'm excited to get to run Tapestry and lead it as it grows and changes, and just continue to do the podcast and all the fun things that we're doing through One Big Happy Home as well. So it's kind of fun.
So the real reality for everybody listening is like net zero, right? We're still on the podcast. Chris Stern is still the host.
Yeah.
Dallas Stacy is still the technical director.
Right.
So,
and the ministry that was before hosting this is pretty much still the ministry it's hosting. It's just different people are paying the bills now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of this the separation agreement with Irving Bible is that they have offered to have the conference at IBC as it has been for the previous 12 years.
Yeah.
This is conference number 13, and so it'll be at IBC this year, a place of familiarity. So, Dallas is still going to be there on Saturday, running the tech of it as he always has. It'll be in a familiar place. So that was actually their suggestion when they came back with our proposal was acceptable to them. They said, well, hey, what do you think about doing this? I'm not sure where it's going to be next year. It might be at IBC. Or we may go, well, is it possible to maybe move it around the Metroplex just a little bit? I don't know. We haven't made those decisions, but what I do know that is October 19 and 20, it is at Irving Bible Church at 2435 Kinwest Parkway, Irving, Texas, 75063.
So just plug that into your Google Maps or Waze or
just get there.
Your GPS system of choice. And
semaphore from the roof. I don't really care. Just get there.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. When we were looking at some of the registrations, we've got people coming from 5 or 6 different states. So I'm excited that they're coming in from all over the place to hear Jayne and to hear the rest of our speakers. We have just some great speakers. I think you guys are really going to be blessed if you are able to come to the conference. We've got new people coming this year that we think bring some great things. We've got some people that, like we talked about earlier, that have been here for years, that obviously we keep inviting back because we know they bring great things to the table. So anybody on that list you wanted to highlight?
Yeah,
so
a couple of folks that I maybe want to talk about just a little bit here. One of them being Mark Vatsas, who most people know from Parenting with Connection, the Facebook group with 100 million people in it. That may be an actual number. I don't know.
It's may feel that way.
It's a lot of people.
It's a big group for sure.
So Mark's one of the moderators there. He is also has his own company called Seen and Heard, where he does parent coaching. And so, we love Mark. Got to know him years ago when his daughter, while she was working at TCU in their was getting her degree in Masters in Developmental Trauma.
Yeah.
Came and babysat for our kids. And
we like to brag to all of our friends that we had a TBRI trained babysitter. We were pretty excited by that fact. And she was amazing. We were really sad when she moved back to Colorado. And
she's phenomenal, just so intuitive with the kids. And we could probably do a whole episode just talking about how great she is. But brief story. This is when she hooked me. So we were teaching ETC class, and our regular babysitter couldn't do it. She got the part of Fiona in her school's production of Shrek, and so her younger sister at the last minute came and babysat, and it didn't go great. Let's just be honest. We got home and every light in the house was on. None of the cushions were on the couch. There was 6 days worth of dishes in the sink. And all the children were awake. It's 10:30 at night, and she left immediately when we came there, and we can unpack that a little bit. We probably overwhelmed her with our enormous force of children.
Yeah, I think it was a little much. She was young too. She
was young. Yeah, her mom still had to come and pick her up. Yeah. And her mom was waiting outside our house when we got home. It's just I got to go walk right past, climb the car. Our kids, at one point, they told us that she actually had locked herself in the walk-in pantry during dinner and told them that she needed a break.
Yeah.
Fast forward 7 days, so Kayla finds this young woman, and we get home, and all the children asleep. The house is neat. There's a pot in the sink with water, I guess, in it to soak. Yeah, yep. That's the word I was looking for. And she's sitting with her feet up on the couch next to her, reading a book, and there's one little
a lamp in the living room
on so she can see. And at the time, we'd been having a lot of trouble with our youngest at bedtime. Just what was she? Maybe 18 months or 2 years old or whatever.
Yeah, she was little, but she
sobbed and sobbed at bedtime.
Not want to go to sleep.
Would not settle. And I'm like, how did you get her to sleep? Well, we just practiced bedtime 30 minutes before bedtime. So that's
awesome.
And so when she graduated, her mom and dad came into town and her siblings, and we had led lunch with them and got to know them. And so he's fantastic. Not just as a parenting coach, but in 2018, in some of our hardest struggles, which, again, we could do a whole episode on why 2018 was a roller coaster, but there isn't really any value to that. Mark was certainly somebody I confided in and spent many hours on the phone with him, listening and offering advice and how to navigate some stuff. And so he's actually walked through some tough stuff with us as a confidant and an advisor. And so we're thrilled that he's coming down, not just because he'll impart wisdom, but also because we'll just get to hang out with him. So that's pretty cool. And then, there are several other people here, so I don't want to feel like we didn't highlight anybody, so we might just talk through everybody pretty quickly. But Andrew and Angela Holland from Hope Fort Worth will be with us. They're a couple of people that we've known for a while, and certainly very, very influential in this part of the country, and with a growing national reputation, and just two people that we just like the heck out of. Had dinner with them during the summer one night, and we just laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And so we're so thrilled that they're going to be here and impart their wisdom from their lived experience and their training as well.
Yeah, and another new person we have this year is Christine Flagey, and I'm so excited that she's coming. She's actually a nurse at a pretty well-known in this area clinic where they're pretty well known for just their kind of holistic approach to kids. She's also an adoptive mom herself, and so she really gets kind of the holistic aspect of looking at kids and our kids' needs. So she's doing a whole brain wellness session, which I think is going to be awesome. So I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, and so I really kind of belabored Mark there a little bit, and so I'll go a little briefer on some of the others here because I don't want to feel like we didn't mention everybody because it's not like 100 people. Tori and Nikki Carroll will be joining us for those who came to the In This Together event on transracial adoption. Tori and Nikki were part of the team that planned that and put that together, as well as being on stage. For those who came, Tori moderated the panel. Nikki was on the panel. Just a delightful couple, very considerate, really, really all in on trying to make the world a better place for kids with trauma histories, and just tons of fun to have dinner with. When we had dinner with, I'm like, everybody on this list, like we had dinner with them sometime in the summer, which laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. Just so much enjoy their company, and so pleased that they're going to be with us again. And then I will talk about Paul, and we talked about Kristen, and you can mention Kayla.
Okay.
And so Paul and Diane Anderson, who are long time, they're fixtures at every Tapestry conference. We just love Paul and Diane a great deal. They are so faithful to what they've been taught. They really do a great job of communicating the information. Paul has spoken at some events on schooling over the years, and they are long-time trusted parts of the Tapestry teaching team, and we are thrilled that in kind of all the royal this year, they have agreed to participate as well. So we're just thrilled that Paul and Diane will be with us again. I think that the only way Paul and Diane will not be with us at conference is if Paul and Diane tell us they're not going to do it.
And if you've been to a Tapestry conference before and you have not heard their session on grieving your child's loss with them, you've got to go listen to it.
Yeah, they just have lots of wisdom and experience. That their oldest is he may be in college this year.
He is in college. Yeah.
Is he in college this year? I'm like, wow, they're
getting old.
Just like the rest of us.
Aren't we all? Oh my goodness gracious. And then we talked about Kristen a little bit, but I'm just so excited. Kristen she's just been awesome and just been such a big part of the Tapestry team. Mm-hmm. She's helped me with a teen group we've done. We've talked a little bit about that on the podcast before, but she's an occupational therapist by training and also an adoptive mom. And so she just brings so much wisdom and so many great ideas. So she'll be speaking and teaching. If you've not heard her before, definitely go. If you've heard her before, go ahead and go again, because she really does just bring such great tools and stuff. And then the last one we have is Kayla Marnock, and she is new this year, and she is an author of some kids' books that I just find really intriguing. So she's going to be talking about kind of starting the hard conversations with our kids. One of her books is called My Body's Mine, and just really talks, it's this really cute, sing-songy kind of book about talking to our kids about the fact that other people don't get to touch them, and their body is theirs, right? And she just it's just so good. I mean, it just, as I was reading through it, I was just like, this is really good stuff. And I think she has a lot to bring to the conversation. So she's going to share with you just some ways that you can kind of start those really hard conversations with your kids. Not just about, I mean, she's got a book called My Body's Mine. She's got another one called My Actions Matter. And then another one called I Can Do That, about self-regulation. So she's not just going to be talking about her books. She's going to be talking about just ways to start conversations with kids. Her books happen to be a great way to start conversations, so she'll have a table selling those as well. But she is, I think, going to be a great addition to our speaking lineup this year.
Yeah, so before we move on from the speakers, Chris, I'm glad you pointed out Paul and Diane's topic on grieving our children's loss with them, because one of the questions that we got in the Facebook group this week was about how can we help our kids grieve their loss. So maybe to answer that question, we might see if we can get Paul and Diane on and talk a little bit about what part of the content of that into it.
Yeah.
Well, and we can't forget one of our favorite speakers, Miss Cindy Lee.
Did we forget Cindy?
We did forget Cindy.
Oh my gosh. Please let Cindy Lee not listen.
No.
You know what? It's fine. Cindy would not be upset at us.
Oh my goodness. Well,
but I'm upset at us.
We mentioned her at the beginning, and then we kind of talked about the transition of everything. And so, yeah, we have to come back to Cindy, because Cindy, I'm really excited about her session. She's working on her description for us, but she's been basically teaching a class to some moms and talking about looking at your own stuff. One of the things that, we talk about that a lot on the podcast is how we have to look at our own history, and we have to look at, what we bring to the relationship. But one of the questions that we get a lot is a question about how do we work on our own history? Like, what are practical steps? Okay, I'm aware of these things that happened to me in the past. What are some really practical next steps that I can do?
Right.
How can I begin to heal so that I can help my kids heal? And she's going to do a 2-part session on that. And I think it is one that you won't want to miss, because she's such a good communicator, and everybody is always just blessed by her. Just her talks every year. She has something just great to add.
I think if you had to ask me to describe Cindy in one word, I would say lovely.
Yes.
And so while we're talking about things that are lovely, in the past, we've really thought of the Tapestry Conference as a regional event. But we have people coming from California, Utah, Oklahoma, Louisiana, South Carolina, and Georgia so far this year. So come on down. We got 2 big old busy airports in Dallas-Fort Worth. We have 2 enormous airlines headquartered down here in Dallas-Fort Worth. It's cheap to get here. Yep. You have no excuses.
And we just got a contract with Marriott. They've got a room block for us too. So we've got some good rooms. I'm going to post that on the website soon, so you can get the link if you're flying in, or if you just want to not have to drive home after a long day and just be able to go sit in a hotel and process. I know some people that, like to do that. We've done that before for conferences that we're in town, or we've just said, we're going to get a hotel for the night because we just want to not have to go back and parent. We want to just be able to sit and talk and process and have dinner together and stuff. And so,
ironically, after going to an event to help you be a better parent, we're like, we don't want to parent. And by the way, I just have to, in the interest of transparency and vulnerability with the listening audience, the intent is to go back to the hotel and talk and process. What happens is we go to the hotel and Kayla falls asleep immediately.
Because conferences are exhausting.
They are exhausting.
There's a lot to take in.
Yeah, I remember we FaceTimed. We'd split the kids between her folks and mine, and so we FaceTimed. The kids who were at my parents' house, and our daughter said, "Where's mommy?" And I just turned my phone around, and Kayla's laying on the bed. She goes, "But it's still light outside."
Conferences are exhausting, but they're so good. And if you sit down and process all the things that you've learned, then you're even more exhausted, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I know,
but I think it's good. I mean, and I like to have that time where you can just sit and process what you've learned, and you don't have to jump right back into reality, because I think it gives you a little bit of time to actually think about it before you have to do it.
Yeah, and I know we have to wrap this up here because it's probably dragging on a little bit, but this year, one of the things we're excited about is we have way more and new vendors who'll be there. So there'll be a fair amount for people to engage with between sessions, and I'm excited. I think we have some fun things planned.
Some fun giveaways.
Some things that are different from years past.
Does this mean I get to throw T-shirts from the stage again?
Ooh, yeah, definitely.
So much fun.
Definitely.
How about if you throw like something heavy from stage?
No. There are injury things that we have to take into consideration.
Yeah, we don't want to injure anybody. So,
okay. So it sounds like I got outvoted 2-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
T-shirts might be the biggest thing you can throw from the stage. I think anything beyond T-shirts.
Ooh, T-shirt cannon though.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'll get yes.
We'll work on that. Somebody want to donate one?
I feel
we are still looking for sponsors.
Yes, if you would like to sponsor the Tapestry event, we'll actually put the link to the sponsor page in the show notes and how to connect with us on that. And then I'm going to stop talking because we just got the opposite of the stretch signal.
You have to wrap it up.
So as Ryan said, we will have a link for the sponsor page in the show notes, as well as a link to the main conference page, which again is tapestryconference.org. That's October 19th and 20th. And we hope to see you there. And
may I add one thing? I know I said I wasn't going to talk about. We will also put a discount code for podcast listeners in the show notes.
Yes, we'll put a discount code in there for you.
And the only reason that I'm not telling you what the discount code is because we haven't made it up yet. But it will be there.
Yes.
That's how much we love you listeners. We give you a discount.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Absolutely.
Always fun to do this, gang.
I know. Before we recorded this evening, I was already excited about conference, but now I'm even more excited about conference.
Well, that is because you are going to be worked way harder than you were last year.
Maybe so, but
you know what? It's fun. We had a great time last year, and we're excited to get to do it for a 13th year.
Yep, absolutely. While we didn't answer any questions from listeners this episode, we are always happy to get those. Feel free to email them to us at info@onebighappyhome.com. If you can squeeze it into 200 characters, you can always tweet it to us at onebighappyhome. We have a Facebook group just for our podcast listeners. Just search for the Empowered Parent Podcast Community. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes, the Google Play Store, and Spotify. Just search for the Empowered Parent Podcast. If you've enjoyed and gotten value from our show, we would appreciate a review in any of these locations. The Empowered Parent Podcast is committed to helping parents of foster and adopted kids through connecting, correcting, and empowering principles. Thanks for listening.